In the summer of 1990, a riot broke out in the streets of Florence. Not because of politics, not because of war, because Fiorentina had sold their football player to Juventus. Fans burned their own season tickets. They smashed shop windows. They physically attacked the club's president in the street. The player who caused all of this was 23 years old. His name was Roberto Baggio, and the fact that his own fans rioted rather than let him leave tells you everything you need to know about what he meant to Italian football before he ever reached his peak. Baggio was not just a footballer. He was a feeling, a Buddhist who wore a ponytail and played with a grace that made hardened football men stop and stare. Maradona called him the greatest player he ever saw. Pelé put him in his list of the 125 greatest footballers in history. At Fiorentina, he had scored 55 goals in 94 games and turned a struggling club into one of the most exciting teams in Italy. And when Juventus took him away, the city of Florence never truly forgave anyone involved. But here is the thing about Roberto Baggio that nobody fully understood at the time. The riot in Florence was just the beginning. The real story of his career was not about the goals or the awards or the glory. It was about what happens when the greatest player in the world carries an entire nation to the biggest stage on earth and then stands alone at a penalty spot with the weight of 60 million people on his shoulders. Subscribe to Goalline Stories right now because this story will stay with you forever. At Juventus, Roberto Baggio became the most complete player in the world. He won the UEFA Cup in 1993. He won the Serie A title in 1995. He won the Ballon d'Or in 1993, the most prestigious individual award in football. But none of that captured what Baggio actually was on a football pitch. He was a trequartista, a number 10 who existed in the space between midfield and attack that most players could not even find, let alone dominate. His first touch was silk. His vision was frightening. His free kicks were so precise that opponents stopped giving them away near goal because it was essentially handing Baggio a guaranteed chance. And when he ran at defenders with the ball at his feet, something happened in stadiums that almost never happens in football. People held their breath. But beneath the genius was a body that was constantly fighting against him. Baggio suffered serious knee injuries throughout his career, operations, rehabilitation, months on the sideline. Every time he came back, he had to rediscover himself all over again. Most players with his injury record would have faded quietly. Baggio refused. He came back every single time with the same touch, the same vision, the same relentless belief that he could still be the best player on the pitch. And in 1994, he proved it on the biggest stage the sport has to offer. Italy went to the World Cup in America, and nobody gave them a chance without a truly dominant striker. Then Baggio took over completely. Against Nigeria in the round of 16, Italy were losing with minutes to go. Baggio equalized in the 88th minute, then scored the winner in extra time. Against Spain in the quarterfinals, he scored the only goal. Against Bulgaria in the semifinals, he scored twice. Roberto Baggio had single-handedly dragged Italy to the World Cup final. And what happened next broke his heart in front of the entire world. The 1994 World Cup final was played at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California on July 17th. Italy versus Brazil, the two greatest football nations in history. 94,000 people in the stadium. Billions watching around the world. And Roberto Baggio walking out as the best player on the planet with a hamstring injury he had been carrying since the semi-final. He played anyway, because he was Italy's penalty taker. Because he had never run from responsibility in his life. Because that is who Roberto Baggio was. The match finished 0-0 after 120 minutes. Penalties. Franco Baresi stepped up first for Italy and missed. Then Daniele Massaro missed. Brazil were ahead in the shootout. Then Baggio stepped forward. The entire Rose Bowl fell silent. His Buddhist spiritual master had told him before the tournament that everything would be decided at the very last minute. Baggio had not understood the prediction at the time. He understood it now. He placed the ball on the spot, he took his run-up, and he sent the penalty 3 meters over the crossbar. Brazil were world champions, Italy were beaten, and the image that followed, Roberto Baggio standing completely still at the penalty spot, head bowed, ponytail hanging, the number 10 shirt carrying the weight of an entire nation's heartbreak, became one of the most iconic photographs in the history of sport. He said years later in his autobiography, "It was the worst moment of my career. I still dream about it. If I could erase one moment, it would be that one." But what destroyed Baggio in that moment was not just the miss. It was what came after. Because Italy did not forgive him, and the years that followed were the darkest of his life. After the 1994 World Cup final, Roberto Baggio fell apart. Not dramatically, not publicly, quietly. The way the strongest people collapse, on the inside while still showing up on the outside. He scored just 20 goals in the 3 seasons that followed the miss. For a player of his caliber, that was nothing. The touch was still there. The vision was still there. But something essential had gone. The confidence that makes a genius unstoppable had been shaken to its foundation by one moment in Pasadena. His Buddhist faith kept him going when nothing else could. He meditated. He prayed. He tried to find peace with a moment that the Italian public refused to let him forget. Everywhere he went, the penalty followed him. Every bad game was traced back to that night. Every missed chance was another reminder. Italy had found its scapegoat, and they were not letting go. Then came the manager, who nearly finished him completely. When Baggio moved to AC Milan and then to Inter Milan, he encountered Marcello Lippi, the Italy national team coach, who simply did not trust him. Lippi preferred a more structured system, and Baggio's genius did not fit neatly into it. For the 1998 World Cup in France, Baggio was selected but barely used. He came off the bench. He waited. He trained every day with the same dedication he had shown his entire career, knowing that Lippi might not call on him at all. Then against Chile in Italy's opening group game, Baggio came on and immediately won a penalty. He stepped up. The first penalty he had taken for Italy since Pasadena 4 years earlier. The stadium held its breath. Baggio scored. He described the moment as liberating. One word: liberating. 4 years of pain released in a single kick. And the real Roberto Baggio was about to remind the world exactly who he was. The 1998 World Cup in France gave Roberto Baggio one final moment on the world stage. He came off the bench. He created chances. He showed glimpses of the player who had carried Italy 4 years earlier. But Lippi still did not fully trust him, and Italy were eliminated in the quarterfinals on penalties again. This time, Baggio did not miss. But Italy still lost. And when he returned from France, he knew his time with the national team was over. 56 caps, 27 goals, 3 World Cups, and a legacy defined by one moment that was never truly his fault alone. What happened next is the part of Baggio's story that most people never talk about. He could have faded. He could have taken the easy contracts, collected the paychecks, and disappeared quietly into retirement. Instead, he went to Bologna, a mid-table club. No glamour, no Champions League football, just a manager who believed in him and a team that needed him. Baggio scored 22 goals that season, at 31 years old, with a body that had been through more operations than most players experience in a lifetime. Then he went to Brescia, an even smaller club, and under manager Carlo Mazzone, he produced some of the most beautiful football of his entire career. Not the explosive Baggio of his youth, something richer, more intelligent, a player who had learned to use his mind to compensate for what his body could no longer give him. A young striker called Antonio Cassano watched Baggio train every day at Brescia and said he had never seen anyone with that level of technical perfection. That was Roberto Baggio at 34 years old, broken by injuries, written off by his country, and still the most technically gifted player on the pitch every single time he stepped onto one. Roberto Baggio retired in 2004. He was 37 years old. His final season at Brescia had been cut short by yet another knee injury, his body finally surrendering after decades of refusing to quit. He walked away from football the same way he had always lived it, quietly, without drama, without demanding the recognition he had earned. No farewell tour, no stadium tributes, just a man who had given everything the game asked of him and then some, closing the door behind him and going home. The numbers he left behind were staggering. 318 career goals, 56 caps for Italy, a Ballon d'Or, a UEFA Cup, 3 World Cups, the only Italian in history to score at 3 consecutive World Cup tournaments. But numbers never captured Roberto Baggio. What captured him was the feeling. The way San Siro fell silent when he received the ball in space. The way opponents genuinely did not know what he was going to do next. The way a man with 220 internal stitches holding his knee together could still produce moments of such breathtaking beauty that football writers ran out of words trying to describe them. Maradona said Baggio was the greatest player he had ever seen. That is not a small statement from the man most people consider the greatest player who ever lived. But the real legacy of Roberto Baggio is not the goals or the awards or even the penalty. It is what he represents. A man who carried impossible weight with grace, who was blamed for something that was never entirely his fault and never stopped showing up anyway, who rebuilt himself after every injury, every disappointment, every moment the world decided he was finished. The penalty in Pasadena did not define Roberto Baggio. His response to it did. He kept playing, kept scoring, kept proving. And 30 years later, that image of him standing alone at the penalty spot still moves people who never even watched him play. That is not failure. That is the mark of someone who made the game feel like something more than a game. If you want more stories about the human side of football that nobody else is telling, subscribe to Goalline Stories. We will see you in the next chapter.